Picture this. It's late at night, and you're staring at your phone, hoping her name will appear on the screen the way it used to. There was a time when her presence felt certain, when her voice carried warmth, when her eyes looked at you like you were enough. She didn't just enter your life, she became part of your emotional world. Her laughter became your peace, her attention became your stability, and without realizing it, you allowed yourself to believe something dangerous, that she would always be there. Because when a man loves, he does not love halfway. He loves completely. He stops guarding himself. He stops preparing for loss. He builds his emotional future around her presence, trusting that what he feels is real, permanent, and unbreakable. But love does not always move at the same speed in two hearts. While you were falling deeply, emotionally attaching yourself to every moment, her heart was moving differently. Slowly, quietly, observing. A woman does not fall in love in one moment. Her mind studies you. Her emotions measure you. Her brain responds to how you carry yourself, how you exist when things are uncertain, how strong you remain when life tests you. And somewhere in that silent process, her feelings begin to grow. But the same silent process can also work in reverse, because emotions that build quietly can also disappear quietly. And the most painful truth is, you will not notice the moment her heart begins to let go. There will be no warning, no clear sign, only distance you cannot explain. And when that distance finally becomes real, it feels instant. It feels like everything collapsed in a single moment. One day she is there, and the next day she feels like a stranger. And you are left alone with questions that have no answers, carrying memories that still feel alive inside you. Because while her emotions slowly detached over time, yours remained loyal, yours remained present, yours remained real. And that is why it hurts so deeply. Not because love was weak, but because your love was strong. And sometimes the strongest hearts are the ones that must learn how to survive the silence left behind. It's late at night, the world is quiet. She's sitting beside you, her presence soft, familiar, safe. Her head rests gently against your shoulder, and in that moment, everything feels still. Her breathing is calm, her fingers lightly wrapped around yours like they were always meant to be there. And when she looks at you, there's warmth in her eyes, a warmth that makes you believe something powerful, something permanent. You feel chosen. You feel like somehow in a chaotic and uncertain world you found your place. And without realizing it, you begin to build your emotional future around her presence. Because when a man falls in love, he does not fall cautiously. He falls completely. He removes his armor. He stops preparing for war. He allows himself to be seen, fully. And that is the moment he becomes vulnerable. Because what he doesn't understand is that while his love arrived suddenly, hers arrived slowly. And what arrives slowly can also leave silently. You see, a woman's heart does not move on emotion alone. It moves on perception, observation, emotional interpretation. Her mind is constantly watching, analyzing, feeling things beneath the surface that words never express. She notices the way you react when things don't go your way. She notices the way you carry yourself when you're uncertain. She notices whether your emotional stability comes from within or depends on her. This process is not something she consciously controls. It is part of her neurological and emotional design. Her brain is wired to respond to emotional strength, to independence, to certainty. Chemicals like dopamine and oxytocin begin to associate her emotional safety with how she experiences you. Slowly, over time, her nervous system decides whether you represent stability or emotional risk. And this decision is not made in one moment. It is made in hundreds of small, invisible moments. Moments you never notice. Moments you never realize were being measured. But here is where the silent shift begins. Because attraction, my friend, is not a permanent structure. It is a living system. It must breathe. It must feel uncertainty. It must feel emotional tension. The moment emotional certainty becomes absolute, the system begins to change. When a man becomes emotionally dependent, when his emotional center begins to revolve entirely around her, something subtle happens in her mind. She stops seeing him as unpredictable. She stops seeing him as something she could lose. And when the possibility of loss disappears, the emotional intensity begins to fade. Her dopamine response weakens. Her nervous system adapts to his presence. What was once exciting becomes familiar. What was once emotionally stimulating becomes emotionally neutral. This is not cruelty. This is neurological, unpredictable. She stops seeing him as something she could lose. And when the possibility of loss disappears, the emotional intensity begins to fade. Her dopamine response weakens. Her nervous system adapts to his presence. What was once exciting becomes familiar. What adaptation? Her brain is designed to respond to emotional dynamics, not emotional permanence. And the most painful part is that you will not see it happening. There will be no announcement, no clear signal, only small changes. She becomes quieter, less expressive, less emotionally present. She stops reaching for you the same way. Her eyes no longer hold the same emotional energy when they meet yours. And you will tell yourself stories to protect your heart. You will tell yourself she is tired, busy, stressed. You will believe the emotional distance is temporary because your love has not changed. Your emotional attachment remains intact. Your nervous system still associates her presence with emotional safety, but her nervous system has already begun separating itself from yours. Music fades into hollow silence, then slowly returns. By the time she finally leaves, her mind has already rehearsed the separation. Her emotions have already processed the loss. Her nervous system has already adapted to your absence. That is why her departure feels calm, controlled, certain, while your world feels like it is collapsing. Because for you, the loss is happening now. But for her, it happens slowly, quietly, in moments you never saw. And this is why men often feel blindsided. Not because the signs weren't there, but because their love prevented them from seeing them. Love makes a man loyal. It makes him patient. It makes him believe that emotional bonds are permanent. But emotional bonds are not permanent. They are conditional. They exist only as long as the emotional experience remains alive. And when she walks away, the silence she leaves behind becomes louder than anything she ever said. You sit alone, replaying memories, searching for the exact moment everything changed. You wonder what you could have done differently. You question your value, your identity, your worth. Because when a man loses someone he built his emotional world around, it feels like losing a part of himself. His brain experiences emotional withdrawal similar to physical pain. His dopamine levels crash. His nervous system struggles to regulate itself. This is why heartbreak feels like physical destruction. Because, neurologically, it is. Music slowly becomes stronger, more empowering. But listen carefully, brother, because this pain, this destruction, this emotional collapse is not the end of you. It is the beginning of your awakening. Because the truth most men never realize is that their strength was never meant to come from another person's presence. It was meant to come from within. The men who become unbreakable are not the men who never loved. They are the men who learn to survive losing love without losing themselves. They rebuild their emotional center. They stop depending on external validation for internal stability. They learn to exist fully on their own. And when a man reaches that state, something powerful happens. He stops fearing abandonment. He stops chasing emotional security. He becomes calm in uncertainty. He becomes emotionally self-sufficient. And ironically, that is the version of a man the world respects the most. The man who does not beg for presents. The man who does not collapse when someone leaves. The man who understands that his identity is not defined by who stays, but by who he becomes after they leave. Because true emotional strength is not the ability to keep someone in your life. It is the ability to remain whole, even when they are gone. So remember this truth. Women fall in love slowly. Their emotions build quietly, beneath the surface, guided by forces deeper than words. And when those emotions disappear, it will feel instant, sudden, final. But you must never allow someone else's emotional decision to define your existence. Because the man who survives emotional loss and rebuilds himself becomes someone no loss can ever destroy again. And before this ends, I want you to hear me clearly. If you are hurting right now, if you feel confused, abandoned, replaced, or forgotten, you are not weak. You are human. You loved deeply. You trusted fully. You gave your heart without calculating the risk. And in a world where most people protect themselves behind walls, you had the courage to feel. That is not weakness, brother. That is strength. Yes, she may have walked away. Yes, her feelings may have changed. Yes, it may feel like everything you built collapsed overnight. But listen carefully. Her departure does not reduce your value. Her emotional shift does not define your worth. Someone choosing a different path does not mean you were not enough. It only means the chapter ended. It only means the chapter ended. Do not let heartbreak turn you bitter. Let it turn you wiser. Do not let rejection make you smaller. Let it make you stronger. The pain you feel right now is shaping you. It is forcing you to grow roots where you once grew attachments. It is teaching you how to stand alone without falling apart. And one day, you will look back at this moment and realize something powerful. You survived. You survived loving someone who could not stay. You survived losing someone you thought was permanent. You survived nights that felt endless, and you are still here. So build yourself, strengthen your mind, protect your peace. Become the kind of man who does not beg for presence, who does not collapse under absence, who does not lose himself when someone leaves. Because the world does not break the man who knows who he is. And remember this: love may leave, people may change, feelings may fade, but your value, your strength, your identity, that stays with you, always.